The Great Escape, The Impossible Tunnels of Stalag Luft 3. Part 1. The Fortress of the Luftwaffe. The Hook and Context. In the early years of the Second World War, the German Luftwaffe believed they had created a prison from which no one could return. Located in the dense forests of Lower Silesia near the town of Sagen was Stalag Luft 3. This was no ordinary camp. It was a masterpiece of Nazi engineering designed specifically to house the troublemakers, Allied airmen who had already attempted to escape from other camps. The German High Command assumed that by putting all the escape artists in one high-security box, they could finally neutralize them. They couldn't have been more wrong. The security at Stalag Luft 3 was revolutionary. To prevent tunneling, the Germans built the wooden barracks on stilts, leaving a gap between the floor and the ground so guards could crawl underneath and look for digging. The soil itself was a tactical trap. Unlike the gray surface dirt, the earth just inches below was bright, vivid yellow sand. If a single handful was spilled on the ground, it would shine like a beacon to the guards. Furthermore, they buried a ring of sensitive microphones 10 feet deep around the perimeter to detect the vibration of a shovel. The Commandant, Friedrich von Lindenauer-Wildau, famously told the prisoners that escape was physically impossible. However, the Luftwaffe made a fatal error. They gathered the most creative, most determined, and most technically skilled engineers, forgers, and strategists of the Allied forces in one place. Among them was squadron leader Roger Bushel, known to his men as Big X. Bushel was a veteran escapee who had a personal vendetta against the Gestapo. In the spring of 1943, he organized a secret committee and delivered a speech that would change history. He told them, "Everyone in this room is living on borrowed time. By rights, we should all be dead. The only reason we are here is to escape." His plan was so massive it sounded like suicide. He didn't want to dig one tunnel, he wanted to dig 3 simultaneously: Tom, Dick, and Harry. If the Germans found one, they would never suspect there were 2 more. The goal was to break out 200 men in a single night. This wasn't just an escape, it was a full-scale underground war.
Part 2. Engineering the Underground Subway. Technical Brilliance. Digging a tunnel over 300 feet long through shifting sand without it collapsing is an engineering nightmare. Doing it while starving, in freezing weather, and under the watchful eyes of goon guards is a miracle. To begin, they had to find a way to enter the tunnels that the Germans would never find. For Harry, the entrance was hidden under a removable tiled section beneath a heating stove in Hut 104. Because the stove was always lit and burning hot, the guards never dreamed of checking underneath it. Once underground, the X organization faced 3 major problems: air, light, and disposal. First, oxygen. The tunnels were 30 feet deep, far below the reach of German microphones, but also far from fresh air. To solve this, the prisoners built a manual bellows system using wood and canvas from old kits connected to pipes made of thousands of Klim milk tins, powdered milk cans. A prisoner would sit at the entrance and pump air through the pipes to the diggers at the face. Second, the structural integrity. The yellow sand was like fluid, it could cave in at any moment. To prevent this, the prisoners stripped the camp of its bedboards. Every man in the camp gave up most of his bed slats, sleeping on thin strips of fabric. Over 4,000 bedboards were used to shore up the tunnels, creating a wooden lining that held the earth back. Third was the disposal of over 100 tons of yellow sand. This gave birth to the Penguins. Over 200 men were recruited to wear secret pouches made from towels or socks inside their trousers. As they walked around the camp, they would pull a string in their pockets and the sand would trickle out of their pant legs. Other prisoners, acting as gardeners, would quickly rake the yellow sand into the gray soil. The most incredible feat, however, was the railway. They built a miniature wooden rail system with wheeled trolleys. Diggers would lie on these trolleys and other men would pull them back and forth using ropes. They even tapped into the camp's electricity, stealing hundreds of feet of wire to install electric lights throughout the tunnels so they didn't have to use oxygen-consuming candles. This wasn't a hole in the ground, it was a high-tech electrified subway system built with garbage and stolen scraps.
Part 3. The Shadow Factory, the Forgery and Disguises. The tunnel was only half the battle. If 200 men stepped out of a hole in the woods wearing prisoner-of-war rags, they would be captured in minutes. Roger Bushell knew they needed to blend into German society. This led to the creation of the Dean and Dawson Travel Agency and the camp's tailoring department. These men were the special effects team of the Great Escape, and their work was as vital as the digging itself. The forgers were master artists. Working in secret rooms behind false walls, they used brushes made from human hair and ink made from melted shoe polish and beet juice. They managed to create over 400 maps, travel permits, and identity documents. These weren't just simple drawings, they were high-precision forgeries that included fake German official stamps carved out of rubber boot heels and linoleum. They studied the exact patterns of German travel documents to ensure that even a close inspection by a Gestapo officer would fail to detect the fraud. Meanwhile, the tailors were performing their own magic. They took old blankets, uniforms, and even curtains and transformed them into believable civilian suits, overcoats, and fake German Luftwaffe uniforms. They used boiled-down colored pencils to dye the fabric. Brass buttons were molded from melted lead found in pipes and then polished to look like gold or silver. To complete the look, they manufactured hundreds of small accessories, compasses made from broken bakelite and magnetized needles, and even small suitcases made from reinforced cardboard. To protect this entire shadow factory, a massive network of stooges was established. Every guard's movement was tracked. If a goon, a guard, so much as looked at Hut 104, a signal, a whistle, a shout, or a turned page would ripple through the camp. Within seconds, the tunnel was sealed, the forgers hid their pens, and the tailors pretended to sleep. This was a massive psychological chess game. The prisoners were living two lives, one as humble captives and another as a highly efficient industrial-scale escape machine.
Part 4. The Night of the 76. Execution and Legacy. The night of March 24, 1944, was the coldest in years. The escape was set for Harry, but as the first man reached the end of the tunnel and pushed his way through the surface, he realized a terrifying mistake. The tunnel was 20 feet short of the forest. Instead of emerging into the cover of trees, they were in open ground, just yards from a guard tower. Despite this, the decision was made. The escape must go on. For hours, men crawled through the frozen tunnel, timing their movements with the rotation of the German searchlights. By 5 a.m., a guard finally spotted the 77th man. The alarm was raised. Of the 200 men who planned to go, only 76 made it out. Hitler was absolutely livid. This escape was an embarrassment to the Third Reich. He ordered a Grossfahndung, a nationwide manhunt that involved over 5 million German soldiers, police, and Hitler Youth. Germany's transportation system was paralyzed as the Nazis searched for the escapees. In the end, only 3 men, 2 Norwegians and a Dutchman, made it to neutral territory and reached safety. The rest were recaptured. In a move that violated the Geneva Convention and shocked the world, Hitler personally ordered the Gestapo to execute 50 of the recaptured officers. They were taken to remote locations and shot in the back of the head. When the war ended, the survivors returned home, but the story of the 50 became a sacred memory. The Great Escape wasn't a failure because only 3 men made it home. It was a success because it proved that the human mind is the ultimate weapon against oppression. The men of Stalag Luft 3 didn't just dig a hole, they dug a grave for Nazi arrogance. They showed that even in the darkest prison, imagination and unity can light the way. If you found this breakdown of historical strategy and human spirit powerful, hit that subscribe button. This is Financial Historian, where we uncover the true costs and the incredible tactics of the past. Until the next deep dive, keep your eyes on the horizon.